I started out from Memphis, boys, $2 and a dime. When I landed in on Hazard, boys, I did not have a shine. God knows I've been all around this world.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Been All Around This World, the podcast that explores the 7-decade recording career of folklorist and documentarian Alan Lomax, presented by the Association for Cultural Equity. My name is Nathan Salzberg. I'm curator of the Lomax Digital Archive at the Association for Cultural Equity and your host. This is a show I've been wanting to put together for a while. The music was the easy part, but how to frame it was and remains the much harder part. The impetus, I guess, is best summed up in that late night gnawing feeling. I imagine plenty listeners have experienced as well that sense that the world is in an advanced terminal state, or at the very least, in the words of the Arkansas bluesman Samson Pittman, as he put it in a song to Alan Lomax in 1938 when he recorded him in Detroit, "This old world's in a tangle." This, of course, is nothing new. Folks have laid awake in their beds at night for as long as folks have laid in beds at night, getting themselves worked up about what they feel is surely the imminent end of the world. So the cold comfort is that it's not just us in our particularly benighted age, but it is built into the human condition. It's the cocktail of crises we face now, though, from climate catastrophe right on down, that argues to me that our species has never really been this close to the lip of the abyss before. So, as I've done personally for a variety of reasons, distraction, comfort, perspective, we will do in this episode, namely to dig into songs expressing themes of eschatology, visions of Armageddon, the day of judgment, the end of time, and so on. There's no shortage of this material in the Lomax collections, or for that matter, in the vernacular American religious tradition. I'm speaking specifically of Christianity, of course, black and white, from which we'll be drawing most of the material, not all of it, but most of it, in this episode. Of course, these religious traditions are more intermingled streams than they are parallel courses. They use the same language from the same textual sources, and in many cases, the same songs, say from the 18th century Calvinist hymnody of Isaac Watts to the 19th century camp meeting revival anthems of Ira Sankey. And what's crucial about this shared tradition, by turns compelling and revolting, is that the ontological and moral perspectives expressed in these songs are utterly central to American cultural and political life. If you'll forgive the cliche, they are utterly sewn into the fabric of this country. On one hand, they've provided solace and inspiration and power to generations of Black Americans, from the first Christianized generation of slaves, through the mystical emancipatory visions of Sojourner Truth or Rebecca Cox Jackson, to the liberation theology of Martin Luther King Jr. and the Civil Rights Movement, through to Reverend William Barber and the repairers of the breach. On the other hand, their fantasies of judgment, blood, and fire can be heard echoing through the Christian rights responses to abortion and to the mass murder of school children in Uvalde or Parkland, the pious death of innocents, working as potential rapture accelerants. So let's turn together now to explore some of this wonderful music, because it is wonderful music, no matter how wild the apocalyptic fantasy gets. The potency of the vision really makes for fantastic songs. I would say even the most religious phobic listeners would find there is a humanity expressed in this music that is undeniable. And I should make it crystal clear before we start that I have zero expertise when it comes to the varying schools of Christian millennialism, and I won't dare attempt to pick apart any of the doctrinal perspectives that may be expressed in these songs. There's no better place to start than with the great Estel Cortez, or E.C. Ball, from down in Southwest Virginia. He was first recorded by John Lomax in 1937 at the Galax Virginia Fiddlers Convention, again in 1941 by Alan Lomax. And then 18 years later, Alan and Shirley Collins visited E.C. and E.C.'s wife Orna at their home in Rugby, Virginia in 1959. In the intervening years, E.C. Ball, who was a singer, composer, and guitarist, had written the song we're about to hear, a song that has fully entered the American tradition and perhaps is the most effective, exciting, vaguely hilarious account of the rapture you're likely to hear in American folk music. And it has. It's become, I think, a bona fide folk song at this point. I'm sure many more people know the song than they know it to have been composed by one E.C. Ball. The song is called Tribulations, and it will start us off here on our End Times episode of Been All Around This World. Thank you for listening.
This is E.C. Ball at Rugby, Virginia, recording a song that I composed from the last book in the Bible, Revelations. The title of this song is Tribulations. Trials, troubles, tribulation, such as never been before. When the angels pour upon us their vials of wrath forevermore. When the fire comes down from heaven and the blood shall fill the sea, I'll be carried on by Jesus and forever with him be. The beast with horns will come upon you, one with 7, one with 10. Men will cry unto the mountains, they'll pray to die but cannot win. When the fire comes down from heaven and the blood shall fill the sea, I'll be carried on by Jesus and forever with him be. The mark must be upon your forehead, these worldly goods you then can buy. Depart from me, I never knew you. You'll hear my blessed Savior cry. When the fire comes down from heaven and the blood shall fill the sea, I'll be carried on by Jesus and forever with him be.
What's the name of it?
World is gone to destruction. This is gone to destruction, brother. Your soul is gonna be lost. This world is gone to destruction, brother. Your soul is gonna be lost. This world is gone to destruction, brother. Your soul is gonna be lost. You better cry, Lord, have mercy. Yes, please. I run into the altar, Lord, and I fell down on my knees. I ran to the altar, Lord, and I fell down on my knees. I ran into the altar, Lord, and I fell down on my knees. And I cried, Lord, have mercy, if you please. I cried unto my Savior, Lord, have mercy, if you please. I cried unto my Savior, Lord, have mercy, if you please. I cried unto my Savior, Lord, have mercy, if you please. And I cried, save me, Lord, if you please. to my mother's door. Then I fell down on my knees. I ran into my mother's door. Then I fell down on my knees. I ran into my mother's door. Then I fell down on my knees and I cried, Lord, have mercy if you please. Yes, indeed.
World Going to Destruction, a song composed and led by James Moore, who was joined in the singing by Tommy Hackett, Rufus Murphy, W.H. Brooks, and William Brown, recorded by Lewis Jones and Alan Lomax at the home of Dave Rowland on the Sadie Beck Plantation somewhere, we're not sure where, in the Arkansas Delta, July 1942. William Brown, one of the singers there, is in fact the excellent blues guitarist and singer who Lomax had recorded the same day. If you're unfamiliar with his work, take a look in the Lomax Digital Archive. I think you'll be pleased by what you find, although he's not to be confused with the Willie Brown who had made those few extraordinary sides for Paramount Records 10 years earlier in 1932, when one of those records still has yet to turn up. So keep your eyes open as always. The idea that at some point in time, or rather that at the end of time, the rapture will cause the earth and the celestial bodies to cease to exist is argued by some to be bad theology. And here I am delving into doctrinal matters I said I would avoid. But regardless, it's sung about in countless songs. And we'll hear one of a fairly recent vintage, recorded at a Shape Notes singing gathering at Holly Springs Baptist Church in North Georgia in 1982 by Alan Lomax and his American Patchwork video crew. Listeners who remember our Sacred Harp episode will remember some of the recordings from Holly Springs. This is a piece written by Ruth Denson Edwards, who was a leader in the Sacred Harp movement and a member of one of its first families, the Densons. Miss Edwards, who I saw somewhere online referred to as the Queen of Sacred Harp, contributed 3 songs to the 1991 revision of the hymnal, and one of them is called New Georgia, the lyrics of which she composed in 1959. And it was in 1959 when she was almost certainly part of the annual United Musical Association Singing Convention that Lomax and Shirley Collins recorded in Fife, Alabama. The second verse of her song, New Georgia, begins, "When sun and moon and earth and stars and time shall be no more, through his own blood and battle scars will land on Canaan's shore." Oh, but wait, a quick 11th hour mea culpa, which is that I admit to not doing full due diligence and actually listen to this particular recording of New Georgia, which in classic Sacred Harp style, the singers only opted to do the first verse and not include the second. So you'll have to take my word for it that the lyrics just quoted appear in Ruth Denson's original New Georgia.
and the moon drifts away into blood. When the sea began to roar and the rocks began to melt, oh sinner, oh where will you stand? Oh sinner, where will you stand? When the sea began to roar and the rocks began to melt, oh sinner, oh where will you stand?
Took a liberty there to play something fairly far outside the scope of the Lomax collections, but it's so good and so relevant to our theme, I hope you'll excuse me. That was Taylor Griggs' Louisiana Melody Makers with a song they recorded in Memphis in September of 1928. It consists only of one verse, drawn from a longer hymn called The Stars in Their Elements, which, as far as I can tell, was first published in 1893. And that verse is, when the stars from the elements are falling and the moon drips away into blood, when the sea begins to roar and the rocks begin to melt, O sinner, O where will you stand? And a portion of this hymn was quoted by W.E.B. Du Bois in the Sorrow Songs section of Souls of Black Folk. His rendering is, oh, the stars in the elements are falling, and the moon drips away into blood, and the ransomed of the Lord are returning unto God. Blessed be the name of the Lord. We'll hear a couple more songs regarding that day when the stars begin to fall. First, we'll go back to Southwest Virginia in 1959 to hear siblings Hobart Smith, Preston Smith, and Texas Gladden do their version of When the Stars Begin to Fall in their fantastic family country gospel arrangements. And then a recording from clear on the other side of the state in the Hampton Roads area, the Belleville a cappella choir of the Church of God and Saints in Christ, a congregation founded by a fascinating character named William Saunders Crowdy, who was born into slavery in the 1840s, fought for the Union in the Civil War, and then, I'm sorry to say, joined up with the Buffalo Soldiers in Oklahoma in the 1870s. Come the 1890s, after he'd retired from working as a cook on the Santa Fe Railroad, he started seeing visions and hearing voices. These told him that black people were the true tribes of Israel, and compelled him to found a denomination that he called the Church of God and Saints in Christ. He set up tabernacles, as he called them, throughout the Midwest, and making his way east, he established the church's headquarters in Belleville, Virginia. It's unclear what moved Lomax to visit the church in April 1960, but as you'll hear at the end of this performance of the spiritual My Lord One a Morning, also known as When the Stars Begin to Fall, you'll hear Lomax was not altogether pleased by their more stolid arrangements, and he calls this one fancy. Too fancy, in fact. And quickly, before the segment begins, there's one more performance that speaks to this theme that I love, but is a little too rough to include in the show, so you'll find a link to it in the show notes. A 1937 recording from Leslie County, Kentucky, by Samson Caldwell and Farmer Collett, doing a song called Jesus Getting Us Ready for That Great Day, which some listeners might be familiar with from the 1927 recording of Ernest Phipps and His Holiness Singers, great white sanctified group from the Corbin, Kentucky area, which they recorded for Victor Records.
See if we can get together on.
Oh, Father, what will you do? Father, what will you do? Father, what will you do when the stars begin to fall? I bid farewell old world. I'll bid farewell to this old world. I'll bid farewell to this old world. When the stars begins to fall, I'll go home to the glory land. I'll go home to the glory land. I'll go home to the glory land. When the stars begins to fall. Oh, mothers, what will you do? Mothers, what will you do? Mothers, what will you do? When the stars begins to fall. I'll go home to the glory land. I'll go home to the glory land. I'll go home to the glory land. When the stars begins to fall, I'll bid farewell to this old world. I'll bid farewell to this old world. I'll bid farewell to this old world. When the stars begins to fall. Oh, brothers, what will you do? Brothers, what will you do? Brothers, what will you do? When the stars begins to fall. I'll bid farewell to this old world. I'll bid farewell to this old world. I'll bid farewell to this old world. When the stars begins to fall. Oh, sisters, what will you do? Oh, sisters, what will you do? Sisters, what will you do? When the stars begins to fall. Oh, I'll go home to the glory land. Oh, I'll go home to the glory land. Oh, I'll go home to the glory land. When the stars begins to fall.
My Lord, what a morning. My Lord,
terribly fancy for me. Terribly, terribly fancy. It might be anywhere.
At this point in our program, we have worked our way into the more specific eschatological topic of the final judgment, which is hard to avoid in considerations of end times thinking, as Christianity, Judaism, and Islam all have their variations on the theme. The next song is maybe a little loosely related, but because it's Muslim sacred singing, which is a rarity in the Lomax collections, I wanted to take the opportunity to include it. This comes from the 10 hours of recordings made in 1967 in Morocco by Alan Lomax and Joan Halifax, who is now Roshi Joan, eminent Buddhist scholar and teacher and director of the Upaya Zen Center in Santa Fe. This collection of recordings is a peculiar assemblage in that there is far less emphasis on particular artists or songs and much more on environmental ambience, certainly more than Alan had ever done before and maybe since. There's sounds of the Medina, of animal calls, of tradesmen at work, public events like saints' death days, wedding processions, snippets of speech, which reflected an increasing preoccupation with the comparative language analysis project that Alan called parliametrics, and religious utterances like this next one, which was recorded in the Medina in Fez during a procession of several Sufi brotherhoods. We have it listed in the catalog as hellfire, although the complete translation is, "The honor of the prophet is strong. He who will not pray will go to hell. He who prays to God will not burn." And in a recording sort of announcing the scene on the tape, Alan says that it was started by half a dozen young men, but when he joined in, Alan joined in, and I think you can hear him towards the end of the track. Apparently the rest of the bystanders did too.
Now we're going to, as Sister Ross line this couple of verses of a hymn this time. Let's all join in and sing.
Chief of all my joys,
The lining out of an Isaac Watts hymn there, the practice that was called in the black church and still is in the few black churches where it holds on, simply Dr. Watts. The Awful Day Will Surely Come was recorded by Lomax at the True Light Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas, February 1st, 1948. It was led by a Reverend Cyphers and a woman identified as Mrs. Ross. And I think this is the first time we've heard any of these early 1948 church recordings that Allen made in the wake of his father's sudden death in Greenville, Mississippi on January 26th, 1948. It was a kind of tribute that I suppose could only be made by Lomax the Younger to Lomax the Older. Following John's funeral, Allen visited several Black Baptist and Methodist churches in Mississippi and Texas, documenting the worship services there. And then he stopped by Parchman Farm to continue the recordings he had made in the late fall of 1947 with incarcerated men there. 30 years later, in 1978, Lomax was back in Mississippi with cinematographer John Bishop and folklorist Worth Long, making the film that became The Land Where the Blues Began. In Canton, Mississippi, they set up for a long shoot at the St. James Missionary Baptist Church, first of the worship service and congregational hymn singing, which also included much Dr. Watts, and then that evening with two visiting gospel groups. One of those groups was called the Sensational Friendly Brothers, I believe, though they might have been just known as the Friendly Brothers Quartet at this point, it's unclear. They were from Tallulah, Louisiana, and we'll hear their performance of Where Shall I Be When the First Trumpet Sounds.
We are the Friendly Brothers from Tallulah, Louisiana. Hoping and trusted each and every song that we sang that you would enjoy. We'd like to move now and sing for you. Where shall I be when that first trumpet sounds?
It's gonna sound so loud, I know the way down.
want to tell me where shall I be? Yeah. Tell me where shall I be? I want to know right now. Where shall I be? Please tell me where shall I be? All night, all night. Oh, it'll sound so loud. Oh, what
trumpet sound. Wants to meet my mother when it's loud. God knows it sounds so loud till it make out the death. Where shall I be when it's loud? I want to meet my father when the first trumpet sound. Want to meet my father when it's loud. God knows it sounds so loud till it make out the death. Where shall I be when it's loud? I want to meet my Jesus when the first trumpet sound. Want to meet my Jesus when it's loud. God knows it sounds so loud till it make out the death. Where shall I be when it's loud? Want to drown the road when the first trumpet sound. Want to drown the road when it's loud. God knows it sounds so loud till it make out the death. Where shall I be when it's loud? Want to drown the band when the first trumpet sound. Want to drown the band when it's loud. God knows it sounds so loud till it make out the death. Where shall I be when it's loud? Want to be in heaven when the first trumpet sound. Want to be in heaven when it's loud.
Lily and Thelma Knox, Murrells Inlet, South Carolina, recorded by John Lomax at Genevieve Chandler's house in July 1937. Where shall I be when the first trumpet sounds? Some of you might remember the voice of Lily Knox from the South Carolina episode we did, I think, last time on Been All Around This World. I realized that of all the music we recorded, or we presented in that episode, one of the duet pieces between Lily and Thelma Knox was not included, and I love their singing together so much, and I'm pleased to have an opportunity to share it with you now. Some other favorite singing of mine comes from the spiritual, also known as Shouter Baptists, found across the islands of the Lesser Antilles in the Caribbean. They were considered so Africanized in their practice and so ecstatic in their devotions that the British colonial government in Trinidad outlawed them in 1917 with what was called the Shouter Prohibition Ordinance. It was on the books until March 30th, 1951, which is a day now celebrated by spiritual Baptists as Shouter Liberation Day. The denomination's history in Trinidad is especially interesting, as some argue that the faith was brought by the refugees called Americans, the ex-slaves that the British had enlisted to fight against the U.S. in the War of 1812. They were resettled in Trinidad at the end of that conflict. Their worship was a combination of the emergent Black Southern Baptist movement in the States, touched as it was by Second Great Awakening fervor, with the deeply African religious traditions of the Gullah communities of the South Carolina and Georgia Sea Islands, which you just heard, and which we discussed in that last episode of the program. Lomax and the Tobagonian folklorist J.D. Elder visited two Trinidadian Shouter Baptist congregations during their 1962 Caribbean field trip, and we'll hear a recording from one of those churches, a spiritual Baptist congregation in Indian Walk, which was a community descended from one of the original settlements of the American refugees. It's led by a Reverend Dixon and a fellow named Ebenezer Elliott. If more evidence were needed to argue for the enduring African influence on spiritual Baptist practice, Mr. Elliott was identified as being one of Trinidad's most revered Orisha or Shango priests on the island, the syncretic Afro-Caribbean religion that descended from the West African Yoruba. The song is Want to Go to That Happy Land. And maybe it's stretching our theme a little, but I suppose that all eschatology is personal insofar as that the desire for knowledge of final things is inextricable from our human condition and our preoccupation with the central questions of time and space with regard to our mortality, namely the when of our deaths and the where of our location immediately following those deaths, or ultimately following those deaths. So this last segment of the program will address, or more likely embody, those questions, and I think very beautifully. After that 1962 Trinidadian Spiritual Baptist performance, we'll hear something more recent. This one was posted on YouTube around 2012, part of a massive channel of documentation of spiritual Baptist practice in the island of St. Vincent. I watched maybe a dozen or so of the videos, and I was absolutely taken with them, but especially this song. It's so beautiful. You'll just hear the audio here, but there's a link in the show notes to see the video, which the colors, the movements are just sublime. It's a Sankey, an Ira Sankey anthem. On that great day, on that great day, on that great day, I'm going to walk with God on that great day. And we'll finish the program with the ever wonderful Georgia Sea Island Singers. It was first recorded in 1959 by Alan Lomax and Shirley Collins. It's a song called One of These Days, and it's one of the few sacred pieces in their repertoire that's not actually a traditional Sea Island spiritual. I'm nearly positive, though if someone knows better, please let me know, that Bessie Jones brought this one to St. Simon's Island when she relocated there in the mid-30s. The spiritual singers of coastal Georgia, as they were then known, then took it up. They thread their voices so beautifully through this song, but it lacks the polyrhythms that mark the old-time Gullah shouts. Bessie later explained the song to be a leave-taking song that would end a worship service when everyone walked around and shook each other's hands and said their farewells. As she said of it, it's so sad because one of these days you won't be there. I hate to sing it. We'll thus take our leave of you, dear listener. Thanks for joining us on what has perhaps been a slightly diffuse episode of Been All Around This World. And if anyone cares to complain that I have been out of my theological or metaphysical depth with this one, I won't argue. But I will say I feel a little better having had the opportunity to share this music with you. I'd also like to say a very sincere thanks to the newest hire at the Association for Cultural Equity, bringing our staff from 2 members to 3. Michael Cormier O'Leary, who started working with us last month, has brought his considerable time, or I should say considerable talents and the little time that he has, to mixing and editing this program. The first time I've had someone helping with this. He's far more expert at this than I am, so sincere and very grateful thanks to Michael for his help in making this episode sound much better than it would otherwise. If you're not a subscriber to the show, we urge you to take a look at all of the various podcasting sites out there where you can find it and subscribe, and also rate and review if you care to. We appreciate your support and your ears. My name is Nathan Salzberg. Again, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.
One of these days, one of these days, my people, one of these days, when the Lord call me home. Well, we soon shall be done with the crosses. Well, we soon shall be done with the trouble of the world. We soon shall be done with the crosses when the Lord call me home. Sister Bessie, one of these days. My sister, one of these days. My sister, one of these days. When the Lord call me home. Brother Peter, one of these days. My brother, one of these days. My brother, one of these days. When the Lord call me home. Well, we soon shall be done with the crosses. Well, we soon shall be done with the trouble of the world. Well, we soon shall be done with the cross when the Lord call me home. Brother John, one of these days. My brother, one of these days. My brother, one of these days. When the Lord call me home. Brother Foster, one of these days. My brother, one of these days. My brother, one of these days. When the Lord call me home. Brother Josie, one of these days. My brother, one of these days. My brother, one of these days. When the Lord call me home. Well, we soon shall be done with the crosses. Well, soon I'll be done with the trouble of the world. Soon shall be done with the cross when the Lord call me home.
You all can sing this song, boys, when I am dead and gone. Just think about, oh, just